Series title: I Listened and I Remembered, a Record of Global Faith. Christian author's statement of clarity and discernment. I did not set out to collect opinions or moments of inspiration. I set out to listen. What follows is a recall of voices I have encountered from across the world, people who spoke plainly about their faith in Jesus Christ and the way His Word has shaped their lives. I write not to add meaning to their words, nor to diminish them, but to remember them faithfully. As it is written in Luke chapter 2 verse 19, Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. In the same spirit, I keep these testimonies and reflect on what was shared, trusting God to use remembrance as a form of witness. Introduction to the series. These writings are not transcripts. They are recollections. Each entry reflects a conversation, remembered and recorded, shaped by what stood out most clearly, what carried spiritual weight, and what revealed the quiet consistency of faith lived out in real circumstances. I do not speak for the individuals I interviewed. I speak as one who heard them, considered their words, and recognized the work of God moving through many lives in many places. This approach reflects Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 12, "Take heed to yourself, lest you forget the Lord." Remembering is an act of faith. Recall structure, continuous flow. Opening memory. I begin by recalling who they were and where they were from, not as a statistic, but as a presence. I note their tone, their steadiness, or their hesitation, because faith often reveals itself in how a person speaks before what they say. Recalled foundation of faith. I remember how they described following Jesus Christ in daily life. I recall whether their words were confident or quiet, whether their faith was forged through hardship or sustained through consistency. I reflect on how their actions matched their belief, remembering James chapter 2 verse 17, "Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." Recalled scripture and discernment. I recount the scripture that shaped them, not always quoted perfectly, but held firmly. I write what I understood them to mean, how the word anchored them, corrected them, or carried them through loss or uncertainty. As it is written in Psalm chapter 1 verse 2, "His delight is in the law of the Lord, and in His law he meditates day and night." Recalled faith in the world. I remember how they spoke about living faithfully among others, at work, at home, or within their community. I note the quiet courage required, the compromises they refused, and the grace they tried to extend. I reflect on Matthew chapter 7 verse 20, "Therefore by their fruits you will know them." Recalled encouragement. I record the encouragement they offered, sometimes spoken carefully, sometimes simply, often without knowing who would one day read it. I preserve it as it landed with me, trusting God to let it land again with others. Closing reflection. I end each recall by acknowledging what stayed with me after the conversation ended. Not a conclusion, but a recognition of God's consistency across different lives, as written in Isaiah chapter 55 verse 11, "So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth, it shall not return to me void." Recall entry. I remember speaking with a man from Kenya who had been walking in faith longer than I had been alive. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care, not because he doubted them, but because he respected them. When I asked what following Jesus Christ meant in his daily life, he did not mention positions or titles. He spoke about honesty when no one was watching, about forgiving before anger took root, and about beginning each morning in prayer before the noise of the day arrived. He referenced Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 and 6, not as something memorized, but as something lived. He said trusting God had not removed hardship, but it had removed fear. When he spoke about his community, he did not claim to be a light, he said he tried not to block it. That stayed with me. When the conversation ended, I realized I had not been instructed, I had been reminded. Faith did not sound dramatic in his voice, it sounded steady. I remembered Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.